Hi, welcome back to Sunshiny Riley. Today we're just gonna sit down and talk, and I'm gonna talk about my knee surgery and how I injured my ACL. So I got ACL reconstructive surgery. Just basically my whole story up until this point. April actually marks 7 months since I've had surgery. So yeah, I'm just gonna start at the beginning. I have a notepad so that I can do it in the most chronological order as possible, because when I tell stories, I do this whole like loop over here and loop over here, and it's just a crazy web where I go back and forth in the timeline. So like we're gonna try and make it like chronological for everybody, because I don't know, it just is easier that way. Also, I have a bunch of pictures from the last 7 months that I'm just gonna lay over the screen as I talk. So as I talk about things, don't be surprised when things pop up. Oh, also just like a warning, nothing super, like I'm not gonna show you pictures of anything super gross, but like I was gonna have pictures pop up of like my like stitches and like swollen injuries. So like my knee and like an ankle that's swollen, or like my knee that had like stitches and staples in it. So like if that grosses you out, maybe just be aware of like when I start talking about that, like it might pop up on the screen. But I don't think it's actually that gross. I actually thought it was really cool. So that's my warning. Oh yeah, whatever. Anyways, let's get into it. So when this happened, the actual injury was not 7 months ago. I'm 7 months post-surgery. The actual injury happened in July at a soccer tournament. So, I've shared like a whole bunch of, I don't really know how to say this. I was gonna say like, maybe some of you follow me on Instagram, but I don't really know. So I have always played soccer. I'm a huge fan. Oh, actually, for any of you that like also like soccer and sports, I'm gonna show you the wall that I just set up in the spare room with like all of our scarves for soccer. Sorry, hang on one second, I want to show you guys. So this is the wall that I'm sitting next to currently. So there's like football stuff that's like all Ryan's. I actually made that sign for him though. But then like Seahawks stuff, and then this is all Sounders soccer, professional soccer stuff. I think this scarf is mine, and then the other scarves and stuff are actually Ryan's, but yeah, so that's what I'm sitting next to. So big fan of soccer. And we're back. Big fan of soccer, and I've played soccer like basically my whole life. My first team was called the Ladybugs when I was like 5, super cute. And when I graduated high school, I started, well, before that, but I started getting really, really into the local adult league in the Tri-Cities. And if by chance you're from the Tri-Cities, you should try us out. We're called CBSA, Columbia Basin Soccer Association. This is not part of my spiel. This is not in my notes, which is probably why I'm using a lot of words to explain something that doesn't need a lot of explaining. I apologize. But anyways, I didn't realize the world of like rec adult soccer was so big, but it's huge. There's tons of tournaments that you can play in. There's local leagues where you can play every week, and there's just so many options. So I very often travel to tournaments, and this last June, me and Ryan actually got engaged at a tournament in Seaside, Oregon, where you play in the sand, like on the beach. So that was really special. And then that was in June, and we were gonna skip the July tournament because we wanted to save money. We've done that July tournament in the past, but we were like let's save some money, like because usually we do maybe like 4 tournaments in a summer, and we were gonna try out another tournament, so we were like, let's skip that one so that we could try this other one at the end of July. You know, like, we were picking and choosing, like, we've been to that one before. And right before the tournament, we basically had teammates. We have a huge group of people that we know and love that we call our soccer family here in the Tri-Cities that we like. So we've played on multiple teams. Not everybody's on the same team always. And usually when we do tournaments, we actually have 2 teams because we have so many people here that are on different teams that like make up our tournament teams. So we were just talking to like all of our friends from both teams that were going to go to that tournament, and they both were like, yeah, the under 30 because a lot of them play like over 30 league and like over 40 league, and obviously me and Ryan can't play in those leagues, so like we're usually on the other team. But they were like, yeah, the younger team like kind of needs you guys, like if you aren't doing anything this weekend, like this is literally on like Thursday and the like tournament is on Saturday and Sunday, and they're like, if you guys aren't doing anything this weekend, like maybe you should like come after all, blah blah blah. And me and Ryan both like and hot, and we're like, I don't know if we should go, this isn't what we planned, I don't know. And then we were like, well, I mean, we're not actually doing anything this weekend, and the tournament's only 2 hours away, it's in Spokane, let's just do it. Like, we kind of very hesitantly agreed to do it. Well, guess what? You should listen to your instincts because we both got hurt at the tournament. So, like, once we decided that we were gonna go, I was like, okay, like, it'll be fun. Obviously, we always have a great time at tournaments, no big deal. Even though I felt a little sketch, especially looking back on it, I'm like, if I felt like that, why did we decide to go? Regardless. But I got excited and because I was like, oh my gosh, we went to this tournament 2 years ago, and we took a super cute picture where like I'm standing on a soccer ball and kissing Ryan, and then is from 2017, and I was like, we went to this tournament 2 years ago, and now we're back as like an engaged couple. Cute. But here's that picture that I posted, like I shared on my story on Instagram. But yeah, so the tournament was Saturday, July 13th to Sunday, July 14th. And on Saturday, like in the second or third game, Ryan like went up for a header, landed in a hole, totally messed up his ankle. Here is a picture of his ankle that's super swollen and bruised, and I think the picture was actually taken a couple days after that Saturday, but yeah, so he injured his ankle, and his ankle is actually still pretty messed up. He hasn't totally gotten it figured out with the doctors. I think it might just take time to heal, but it wasn't broken. He did get x-rays and stuff, but it's not his story, it's my story. But I didn't get hurt. It was on Sunday that I got hurt, and the very first game Sunday, like the very first couple minutes that I'm in that game, like I didn't start the game, so you know, like I sub in the first few minutes of the game after somebody like does a couple sprints. I sub in because it's a 7v7 tournament. Like adult soccer usually isn't 11v11 unless it's like a special tournament. It's usually like 7v7. So after you like do sprints of like the whole field, people sub really quickly. So I sub in and I'm playing offense, and I used to pretty much only play defense, but when the fields are so small, you kind of learn how to play. I mean, I already knew how to play offense, but like I play offense a lot more in adult league than I did in like high school. And I'm actually kind of good at it. What? So I end up with the ball on the right sideline, and I start dribbling, and it's like right in front of my bench and the other team's bench, and I start dribbling towards their goal, and I guess I don't really know what happened. It happened really quickly, and Ryan was like on the sidelines, and it was like pretty much in front of him that it happened, and he doesn't really know what happened either, which is actually kind of a very similar story to how I broke my nose in soccer. Nobody really knows what happened. Basically, I just like to keep running into things. And But for my knee, I'm running up the sideline with the ball. I think, so this guy comes into me, because it's co-ed soccer, so this guy comes into me, and I don't think he actually like made a ton of contact, but I think what happened was that he like came in and he stopped in front of me, and because he stopped in front of me, I had to stop really quickly. And I do remember like hearing a pop, and I ended up hyperextending my knee, which means that it goes too much straight, like it pops back. So I ended up hyperextending my knee, and just let out a scream. Like I didn't start crying. It happened really quickly, and I heard like the pop kind of, and it was like an involuntary scream, which is actually crazy because like years, like maybe 3 years ago, a girl that like was on our co-ed team that I don't know very well anymore, but a girl that was on our co-ed team tore her ACL at one of our weekly games, and she did the same thing where she like just screamed when it happened. And so like in a weird way, I almost was like, it's my ACL, like she screamed and I screamed, and like the way she screamed in my memory is the same way that I just screamed, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thought is going through my head. So I screamed and I go down, and Ryan and one of my best friends, Michaela, who was playing in the tournament with her husband as well, they both come running over because both of them were on the sidelines because both of them got hurt on Saturday actually, and Michaela hurt her knee on Saturday. They both come over because they were on the sidelines, and Ryan manages to carry me off the field because his ankle's taped up, so he's like, he thinks he's fine at that point, and then he ends up, but he's still messed up, it turns out. But he was fine enough at the time to carry me off the field because it was only a couple feet to the sideline since I was running up the sideline. And so Michaela goes and gets the athletic trainer that's there for the tournament, because a lot of tournaments are required to either provide like an EMT of some sort in case something goes wrong, but most of them try and get some kind of an athletic trainer for injuries such as this, where they can come and like, or just like have someone there to tape your ankle if you're like, oh, I need my ankle taped, you know, stuff like that. Usually they just sit there and like hand out ice and tape people's ankle. So then this really nice lady, and she probably wasn't that much older than me, but she was super, super nice. She comes over and she brings ice, and she brings like ace bandage, and she does a whole bunch of knee movements with me. So like, I mean, I don't know them, but like she just like had me laying on my back, and she was like doing stuff like this, you know, ooh, like feeling it, and it's the same stuff that like the surgeon did to me as well when I was like, hey, I think I tore my ACL, and the surgeon was like, let us see. So it's actually like a pretty good test of whether or not you tore your ACL, because I guess what happens is when they're doing tests like that is that your knee ends up being like loose, like they're like when you're supposed to like have resistance. So I'm like trying to hold back tears, trying to be like, we don't know how bad it's hurt. Like it started swelling immediately, so she like did the test, then she was like, okay, like I'm not sure, like she was kind of like trying to ask like where the pain was as she was doing these tests. And I think because just the whole, like my whole knee started swelling immediately, it just was like, it's everywhere inside of my knee. And like I just remember like holding it before she came over and being like, there's something happening in there. And I think it was the swelling. So it was like really hard for me to determine at least like where exactly it hurt, especially because like every time she moved me in her little test thing, it would maybe be like in a different spot. But like I was trying to be really calm. I can be quite the crier, but like if I'm injured, I can try and hold it in. It's more like I'm an emotional crier big time. So at that point I was still pretty much holding in tears. Like I probably let out a few before the trainer got there, but then when she was there I was like, okay, like calm, like let's figure out like what hurts. And I was letting her do the test and letting her talk to me. And then afterwards, after she did the test, she was like, okay, so you're pretty swollen, and I think I know what's going on with you, but like, let's put the ice on it. I'll come back in 20 minutes and redo the tests, and I'll let you know what I think. I don't want to let you know right now. And pretty much as soon as she said that, even though it was like very professional of her, very smart of her to say, and like, let's give it time, like, I'll come back, because she doesn't want to say anything rashly. That's super smart, super professional. But guess what? Every soccer player, like, hearing that they would tear their ACL would be the worst news ever. So basically, if she doesn't want to tell me what she thinks it is, it's probably my ACL, is what was going through my mind. But I was still remaining pretty calm. I was good. I was kind of beginning to joke a little bit with like Ryan and Michaela that were there with me on the sidelines. And she comes back, you know, obviously I was still in a ton of pain, but like, you know, I was a little bit chilling. And then she comes back and she redoes her tests, and she's like, okay, now I do think you tore your ACL, but like, this isn't completely like a completely foolproof diagnostic test, like the yanking on my knee stuff. That's what I mean when I keep doing this. She's like, it's not completely like accurately diagnostic. The only way to know for sure is to get an MRI. So when you get back into town, you need to figure out how to get an MRI. And I was just like, oh, okay, like, thank you so much. Like, you were great. Especially because, like, I'm so upset and it's really an emotional time, and like, I'm hurt. I'm always like, she did so good. Like, I always feel so thankful to the people that are so nice and like professional and calm. You know, like, certain people make you just feel really good when you're in like a stressful time. And so I was very like, thank you so much, you were great, I appreciate it. And she was like, yeah, no problem. So she left. And then after she walked away, I kind of like looked at my friend Michaela, and I think I was still kind of lying on my back at that point. And I kind of like looked at my friend Michaela, and then I looked at Ryan, and I said, I'm gonna cry now. And then I just cried, and Ryan had to be like, ah, like, it still might not be your ACL, like, it'll be okay. Because the general rule of thumb is that you're not allowed to do pretty much anything for a year after you tear your ACL. Like, even if you come back for like running, you can't play soccer for at least a year after your surgery, kind of thing. So at that time I was like, oh my gosh, like, I knew it. And like, she made it sound like so, you know, freaking out, feeling bad for myself, started crying, pulled it together. We decided to move from watching, because like, the whole game is still going on at this point. We're just on the sidelines having a moment. So we decided to like walk over across all these fields to go watch the over 30 game, because we were closer with most of the over 30s than the younger team that we ended up being on for this particular tournament. And I just walked very slowly and not properly using my knee. I was ace bandaged up. The trainer did that before she left, or maybe she left it and then we did it. I don't actually remember that part. But me and Ryan walked really slowly together. He held one of my hands as we like went up and down hills through the complex or whatever. And we went and watched, and I tried not to cry on the sidelines when everybody was like, oh wait, what happened to Riley? And like, what's up with your knee? And my only answer was like, I don't know, it might be my ACL. But like, at the same time, it was kind of nice, because like, one of our friends on the over 30 team, Stacy, like, she just tore hers at the beach tournament the year before, so she like just now came back from her ACL tear when I had torn mine. And so it was kind of nice that she was like, it is okay, like, no worries, like, just wait and see what the doctor says, you know. But I don't know, it kind of sucks because everybody kept being like, it's probably not your ACL, blah blah blah, especially because you were able to walk off the field, and like, you were able to walk over here, and like, you don't seem like you're in that much pain. And it's like, I'm in pain. That doesn't mean it's not my ACL. And it's just a weird way to comfort people, but like, I know that it's like, you don't know what to say in those times. Anyways, from there, you know, went and got a consult when I got home. I just scheduled an appointment with my normal doctor and had them recommend that I get an MRI and like go see an orthopedic surgeon. Like I didn't bother going to like urgent care or the emergency room because like I was able to walk and like I knew that it might be my ACL, so I just kind of knew what process to go through. It also helped that my mom knew what process to go through because my brother tore his ACL almost exactly a year before I tore mine, so he was like totally on the mend, totally better, and then I tore mine. But that means that like my mom knew what she was doing for the most part, so she went with me to a lot of my doctor's appointments. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I'm catching up with my notes. I just started rambling and telling the story, so I'm like, oh man, what if I missed something in my notes? Yeah. Oh, and then I have a picture of both of my knees from like 2 or 3 days after the injury, and it's like kind of subtle that my right knee in the picture is swollen, but like at the same time, when you really look at like how much definition is in the kneecaps, you're like, oh yeah, that one's swollen. So I have that picture up there, and then I have a picture of what it looked like when me and Ryan were walking around together injured. So he's in his boot, and then I have my knee wrapped up in, I think it's called an ACE bandage. I'm gonna keep calling it that. Sorry if that's not what it's called. But I had my knee wrapped up in an ACE bandage. Like, people would literally stop us in the grocery store and be like, what happened to you two? And one time it was a guy that was also in a boot at a grocery store, and he was like, hey, we should all start a club. And we were like, you can join our club, yeah. I don't know, it was funny. Alright, and then the next picture I have in my timeline is August 6th, so almost a full month later, and it's a picture of me and Bo going on a walk on the walking path behind our old apartment and that we lived in last summer. And I don't know, it took a while for me to like, for the swelling to go down and for me to not be like super miserable, but it happened. Like less than a month later, I was going on walks pretty much totally fine, and I didn't feel like unstable or unbalanced at that point. Like August 6th, that picture of me and Bo going on a walk with like my knee kind of sticking out in the picture, I wasn't like walking with a limp or anything. I don't remember exactly like at what point after the injury that I was like, hey man, like I can just walk normal and like I can jump and I can stand on one leg, the injured leg, and like be fine. But that's not actual, from what I can tell, that other people are saying that's not actually typical of an ACL injury, that you can just kind of like do normal stuff after a certain point, which is why most people need surgery, because like you're not stable on that knee. But like for the most part I was pretty stable, which actually led the doctors to be like, is it torn? The MRI says that it's torn. Is it torn? Which was also very concerning, because when they're doing that knee test, like when I went into the actual surgeon and the surgeon was like doing that knee test and all my pre-ops, he was like, relax, you're not relaxed, you're resisting. And I'm like, I'm trying very hard to relax, but like I'm just like sitting here. And he kept being like, no, you're not relaxed. And I'm like, I don't know how else to relax. But he kept being like, you're resisting because I can feel that it's not as loose as it should be, kind of thing. But we moved ahead because the MRI clearly showed that I tore it. My MRI also said that I tore my meniscus, but I guess MRIs overdiagnosed meniscus tears, so when they got in for the surgery, I didn't end up having a torn meniscus. And then at some point after August 6th, or maybe before that, which is the picture of me walking with Bo, I also started going on runs. They did say it was super beneficial to like get as much strength back into your legs before surgery as possible, because you can't do stuff after surgery for a while, you know? It just, the healing ends up being smoother. So like they didn't tell me I couldn't run, so then I started going on runs. It wasn't like sprinting, or it wasn't like soccer, like I wasn't playing soccer anymore, but like I would take Bo on some jogs on the bike path and stuff. By that point, about a month after the injury. And so I had my surgery scheduled for September 10th. And, you know, I'm stressed out. I'm not going to be able to walk anymore. I'm super sad. I can't play soccer. And I ran into one of my best friends, Katie. I ran into her mom at Costco and I was like, yeah, I did crap to my knee. And she's like, oh yeah, I remember when Katie did that. And then you guys went to Hawaii and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that too. So Katie actually tore her ACL, MCL, and meniscus when we were in high school. But I just, at that point, was like ACL and maybe meniscus. But we were like, oh yeah, haha, and we went to Hawaii. That was so fun. Because they took me, I went with their family to Hawaii in high school. And she was like, you know, Katie is like really stressed out because she's going to take her MCAT, which is the like, the test you take to get into medical school. Oh my gosh, now I feel stupid. I think that's what, yeah. I don't know what MCAT stands for, but it's basically that. Like, she wants to be a doctor, so she's gonna go to medical school, so that, like, whatever test that means. So she's, like, super stressed out, too. And then me and her mom were like, me and Katie should go to Hawaii before my surgery. And so me and Katie went to Hawaii before my surgery. Her mom pitched in to help us buy a condo, and Ryan, my fiance Ryan, works for Alaska Airlines, so we fly for free. By like flying standby, we fly for free. So on September 5th, 5 days before my surgery, we were hanging out on a beach in Hawaii, and I was able to like swim, and we just like, we swim in the ocean for hours when we go together. Me and Katie are like very similar, and we both really enjoy movement and like being active. And so like when we do go to Hawaii, even to just relax, we spend hours and hours like walking up and down the beaches. And we spend hours and hours literally just like swimming and floating in the ocean. And I had no problem whatsoever. At that point, my knee pretty much felt normal. Like it averagely would if I were in Hawaii at any other point in my life. My knee felt fine. And Katie was very aware of it and was like, are you sure you're okay? And I'm like, no dude, like I'm good. Like we were running in the sand and we were playing and splashing, and I was totally good by that point. And that would be almost 2 months post-injury. So we had a great time, super fun. I love her. And I come back, and a few days later I have surgery. And so surgery was September 10th. Here's a pre-surgery boomerang. I made my mom take this boomerang of me because I knew that I wouldn't be able to jump for a while afterwards. So here's a boomerang of me jumping. I'm doing it right outside of the surgery place. So I don't remember everything that like they went through with us for pre-surgery, blah blah blah, but I don't know. We get in there, you know, I'm wearing what I'm wearing in the boomerang. I'm wearing this sweatshirt, I'm wearing a pair of shorts, some fuzzy socks, and a pair of sneakers, you know, just something super comfy. And then I get in there. I didn't put this in my notes because I couldn't remember, and now I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying. But I do remember that they like obviously gave me a hospital gown and were like, you can leave your underwear on. So I did. Woo! And so I changed it into a hospital gown. They're like doing vitals, they do an IV, and needle. I have never ever been scared of needles. Obviously nobody likes shots. I don't even know what that's about. Like, I think it's fascinating when I get my blood drawn, but like shots hurt, man. But I'm the kind of person that like as I'm getting my blood drawn, I'm like watching like this, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Or they can be like, I've had people, obviously we've all had people like that struggle to get the IV in, or like maybe they miss a time or two when you're taking blood or whatever. And for the most part, I'm just like, yep, that's uncomfortable. But I'm really good with needles for the most part. And it's kind of surprising because I basically had a panic attack at like when they started doing stuff besides the IV, because one of the parts of the surgery, like pre-surgery part, was that they were gonna do nerve blockers down in my whole leg. And I guess it does make sense because shots, like I said, nobody likes shots, but it was basically gonna be like shots all up in my whole leg, and like I couldn't see what they were doing, and Ryan ended up having to work, so it was just my mom, and like I also really wanted him there. So, and I don't know, I was emotional, who knows, but basically I started having a panic attack, especially because they were gonna do the back side of my leg with the nerve blockers first. And so they had me with my IV hand, they had me roll over, and I remember going like this, and I was facing this way because this is what side my mom was on. So I'm laying on my stomach because they were going to do this stuff in the back of my leg. And I just start like freaking out, like I'm scared. What's going on with my hair? I'm sorry. But I start just like freaking out. I start crying. And it's so funny because the last thing I remember before like waking up from surgery, the last thing I remember is just them like coming and like putting a whole bunch of stuff in my IV to like sedate me and calm me down. Like that's the last thing I remember. I basically passed out after they gave me whatever relaxing like stop panicking drugs that they gave me. So that was not a fun experience. I don't really know why I freaked out though, because in general I'm fine with needles, and like it didn't like they didn't hurt me, but like I freaked out. So that doesn't mean I'm assuming that maybe some people that are about to have surgery are going to watch this video, so that doesn't mean that it was like an awful part and that you should be scared of that part, but like I, for whatever reason, freaked the freak out. And now I'm slightly scared of needles. Love that for us. Anyways, from there, I don't really remember waking up. I kind of remember putting my clothes on and being upset because they cut off my anklet. Which, it makes sense because obviously an anklet is nasty and it was on my surgery leg and stuff, so they want it to be sterile, but I was like, rude. So I just had like a chopped up anklet in my bag of clothes. But I remember like getting dressed because my mom like really had to help me because the nerve blockers are intense. Like literally your leg is just dead weight. You cannot move it. Your muscles do not work. And so my mom and I had to like manhandle my leg into like socks and shoes and my shorts and stuff like that. Yeah, other than that, I don't really remember post-surgery. I have 2 pictures, and one is of my bandage, and it was like a very big bandage, and I posted that one on my story. So the first thing people saw on my story on Instagram was me doing the boomerang, and then the next thing they saw was me with my bandaged knee laying in bed at my mom's house, being like no longer able to jump. And then I also have a picture in my camera roll of me with a blanket from my childhood that was at my mom's house, a Hello Kitty blanket, and my cat Malibu cuddling my leg. After the nerve blockers started to wear off a little bit, my leg was quite sensitive, so I didn't want her laying on it at that point, but like this was like still the day of the surgery, still could not feel a dang thing, so like yeah, lay on my knee all you want, but that's why her head is on my knee in that picture. So at the time of my surgery, me and Ryan lived in a 2nd floor apartment, and we had decided to move, so we were in the process of moving, and he was working overtime, and so we just decided that it was best for me to move in with my parents. So I actually was sleeping in my parents' spare bedroom, and it wasn't even the bedroom that I used to have when I lived there. It was my brother's old bedroom. So in like the background of the pictures, I don't know if you saw like a sewing machine, but they turned the spare bedroom into, my mom and my sister turned the spare bedroom into their sewing room and stuff. So I moved back in with them, and my cat and the dog came with me. So Malibu and Bo came with us. Well, just me. Ryan stayed at the apartment. And that was really helpful because my mom is a stay-at-home mom and my sister is homeschooled, so they like kept me company a lot, and like I spent a lot of time in the recliner in the living room And it's actually like a really nice recliner. It's like an old person recliner. It has like a heated back and it has massage, and it's one of those ones that'll help like stand you all the way up and lay all the way down. It was my grandpa's old one before he passed away, so like, you know, old people sometimes have trouble getting up, so it would like stand you all the way up, which was actually quite beneficial post-surgery because it was hard to move. That wasn't the first time I'd used crutches before though, so the crutches thing was, I already kind of had down. And then I have a picture of my knee post-surgery with all the writing on it, like all the markings that they made post-surgery. And you can actually see like one of the doctor's signatures saying that that's the correct leg. They asked me non-stop which leg I was supposed to have surgery on, because obviously they don't want to do it on the wrong leg, but after a certain point it was like, yes, it is my right leg. Stop asking, you know. But yeah, that writing didn't go away for a really long time, which was maybe because I was scared to shower and get my injuries wet, because I have like a weird phobia of like open wounds. But the writing didn't go away for a really long time, so I was stuck with like that very phallic marking on my knee. Oh yeah, and then so if I were to do the surgery over again, I would clarify two things with the doctor. If I actually needed to do the nerve blockers, because that was kind of traumatic, and also my leg is still numb 7 months later. It's not completely numb, but there's still like, I don't have normal feeling in my leg 7 months later. And they, like, when we got there, they were like, oh yeah, and here's a whole bunch of shots for you because you're on birth control. And that combined with, I don't know if it was the anesthesia or what, but that combined with whatever they gave me put me at risk for blood clots. So I had to get shots in my stomach every day. Shots in my stomach every day to prevent blood clots for 10 days. And at that point, I was like kind of scared of needles. And then I was like kind of even more scared of needles because I was really tired of getting shots in my stomach every day. They were little tiny needles, but they still kind of hurt. Especially after like the 5th day, I was like, man, I'm tired of this. But here's a video of me getting a shot in my stomach. Okay, we're almost done. And then, oh yeah, I have a soccer girl probs sweatshirt picture. So this is like a couple days into me going to school part-time at the local community college. I decided to take a break from university and just do one class at the community college since I was post-surgery. But I took a picture with this sweatshirt and it says, "Scars mark my strength." And this is from a brand called Soccer Girl Probs, and I love them. If you are a boy or a girl, whatever you are, it doesn't have to be just a girl, Soccer Girl Probs, but whatever you are, just check them out. I will link them down below, and I also have actually a code for a percentage off. You can get 25% off if you use code Riley25, I believe. I'll check and I'll put it in the description. But they're great, and like this sweatshirt actually, like, just the idea of scars marked my strength, and the fact that I could come back from the surgery stronger and I could make one hell of a comeback really kept me going into the surgery and after the surgery, because it's hard to not be able to live your normal life and walk. But yeah, so there's that picture of me with my crutches, and then here's a before and after of me with the staples and stitches, and then what they look like when they came out. And they came out September 23rd, which is 13 days after my surgery. And then I had to do a lot of PT, a lot of stretches to get my knee straight, because if you don't get your knee straight within a certain amount of time, your knee will actually never go straight afterwards. Oh, also, like, ACL surgery, you could have many things to like replace your ACL. Some people choose to get a cadaver ACL put in them, but optional, most people do, it sounds like, is that they take a piece of your hamstring and then they like fold it up and then they put it in as an ACL, and then eventually what happens is that the hamstring dissolves, and then ACL fibers, like, I think it's a ligament, and like ligament fibers form over it as it dissolves, and then you regrow a completely new ACL. So when you're completely healed, you have a totally new ACL that is just as likely to tear as anybody else's in the world. Cool, huh? But because of whatever process is happening in there, if you don't actually get your knee to like fully extend the correct amount to like 0 degrees, like completely flat, then it may never. And it was really interesting because one of the doctors that I was seeing in the office, he had surgery when he was like 17, and he didn't get his legs straight, so he walks with like kind of a limp, like his knee is slightly bent all the time. He can't like straighten it all the way. So that was kind of crazy that like people were saying that, and like I was in physical therapy to do that. Here's one of the stretches I had to do. I had to like lay off of a table and like let my leg hang, which really sucked in the beginning, but now I can do it and it's fine and it's a nice stretch. But like it really like hurt and sucked in the beginning. But it was crazy to like actually see that like that's what could happen if I don't work hard. So like I worked really hard in physical therapy. And then I also have a picture of myself sitting on the couch. I had to keep it constantly extended because I really struggled to get extension. And so they recommended that like I basically don't bend it. So I, like, even in class, I would have an extra chair sitting next to me, and I would have it sitting on the chair so it would be straight like during class. And then I have pictures from October 19th, which is a little bit over 1 month after surgery, of my scars healing. And then I have a picture that's comparing with the staples and stitches, without the staples and stitches, and then as it is like healing, so you can see all the scarring. And also in some of these pictures, I don't know if you can see, but like, let me just go like this. So like this is like where all my main scarring is, like up here, but there is a stitch as high as up here, and that is like right here on my knee. So that's kind of crazy. A lot of people that saw me with my stitches and my scars and stuff were like, what the heck, you have like scars that high up? And I think that's where they like put the scopes in so they can see what they're doing during surgery. So October, November, December, I struggle bust to get my knee straight. And it's very serious to get your knee straight because it might never get straight if you don't do it within a certain amount of time. And so I started going to physical therapy like 3 times a week. We tried everything. I got a gym membership, and I had multiple consults with other surgeons. We talked about doing another surgery. I had to get another MRI. They said that maybe I had a cyclops, which is like scarred tissue kind of behind the ACL, so that it won't like let it go straight. And the MRI showed that I didn't have a cyclops, which is like the scarred tissue ball, but it did show that I had some scarring on my Hoffman's fat pad, which is like kind of a cushion for the kneecap, I think. But they weren't really concerned with that, but they still were like, then why can't you get your knee straight? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying. So we were still talking about a second surgery. And then finally somebody was like, oh, you should get a brace to like help, like so that you sit in the brace and the brace keeps you straight. And like there was a lot of talk about like different kinds of braces and blah blah blah, and I finally went and got fitted with one, and we ended up with a really nice brace. Like the guy that fit me for the brace at like the place that does like prosthetics and stuff was like, oh, this is a really nice one. And that's because we met our, like my family, my parents' family, met our deductible for the year, so like we didn't have to pay copays on anything, so we were able to get a really nice brace for me. And so here's pictures of it on, and then really quick, I was actually going to show you, because I have it with me still, how it works. So here is my robot brace. So it's Velcro. I sit my leg in it. I'm not going to do all the straps. I don't really do this anymore, but for a while there, they recommended different times. I found that, like, I would sit in it for, like, or what I was supposed to do was, like, sit in it for 3 or 4 half-an-hour sessions, and then, like stretch and bend it in between, so I didn't get, like, too stiff. Well, I'm just gonna do all the straps. So, how it works. Sorry, I'm gonna move the camera actually. Okay. How it works is I'm slightly bent right now, and it has this little knob, and this little knob makes my knee extend. This little gear in here does stuff, and then it stretches my knee as it goes, and I can undo it. But then this even has extra settings, so like here there's a couple notches, so I can like make it so that it's not totally, I don't know. So like I don't know how to adjust it while it's on. Point is that like I can make it so that I practice hyperextension, and like if I wasn't able to get it like totally straight now, there's also a setting so that I could basically get it to like this straight where it's still bent, and then I could move to the setting it's at now where I can get it totally straight with slightly hyperextension. And then there's also like a total hyperextension one where I could like really practice a stretch on the back of my knee. So there's that. So the guy that does like prosthetics and did the fitting or whatever, he had to like take measurements for all the different parts of my leg, and then they had this like custom made for me. And then I have a little bag right there. I'm gonna move the camera back. I'm almost done talking. Yeah, so that's my brace. I can get slight hyperextension now. I don't really know what happened, like what the breakthrough was. I didn't end up having to have a second surgery. I think the brace helped, but I don't really feel like the brace was my breakthrough. I think it just kind of happened. I was all of a sudden just able to hit 0. So I was really happy with that, because once that happened, I was able to start moving on like actually recovering, where like getting my strength back into my legs and stuff. I'm at the point where we're working on like back to sport testing. I'm learning all the different things that I'm supposed to be doing so that I can go back to sports. The most important thing is that I am super quad dominant. Like my quads are super strong, and my hamstrings are weak AF, and that's the opposite of what like the ideal body type is, and that's probably why I tore my ACL, because that puts me at really high risk to tearing my ACL, because my quad is like pulling, and like my hamstring, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. So, and it's really funny because like at some point like late January, my physical therapist, she has like this like testing thing where I like kick and she can like get the strength reading, and she was like, wow, you really are quad dominant, like this is what like male athletes test at. And I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm so strong, I can kick. And then she tested my hamstrings and she was like, oh my gosh, this is why you tore your ACL. So at some point in late January, I was already at 100%, and what she considered 100% for quads was she tested my left one that never got injured, and whatever strength my left quad was at, if my right quad was at that strength, then that meant that it was like 100%, like my right quad is all good, all healed. And by late January, my quad was fine. Like my right one was stronger than my left one, as it probably usually is, but since that's my surgery leg, it was like, wow, good job. And my hamstrings were not. My hamstrings were still weak, even though I had been working those out and not my quads in January to like try and catch up. So the biggest thing for me to be able to go back to sports is that I actually get my hamstrings stronger than my quads, so I do a ton of hamstring workouts. I am naturally super tight in my hamstrings too, So I have to do a ton of hamstring workouts and a ton of hamstring stretches because at this point, my right knee, which is my surgery knee, my right leg, can get straighter and like can stretch better because I worked so hard on getting it to like 0 degrees and like even a slightly hyper, like 1 to 2 degrees hyper extended. I worked so hard on that my right leg is actually more flexible than my left leg now. So I'm just kind of a hot mess when it comes to my hamstring strength and my hamstring flexibility. So honestly, you're caught up. This is me 7 months post-surgery. I'm still working on my hamstring strength and flexibility. I am allowed to run a little bit, like on flat surface, like taking it very easy. My physical therapist recommended starting with running 1 minute off and 1 minute on and 1 minute off and 1 minute on for like 20 minutes. And then like working my way up to like 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, and like longer periods, like 30 minutes. I'm allowed to bicycle as much as I want. That was the only thing I was able to do for the longest time. I can do like 7 miles in like less than half an hour, I think is what I was doing before the gyms closed because of the virus. Oh, really quick, I want to backtrack to like learning how to walk again while my leg was super numb, / also just like recovering. It was really hard to learn how to walk again. You don't realize how much you take for granted walking and like how to do it until you don't know how to do it anymore. Because it was really confusing to like figure out like what part of my heel hit and like what part of my toe hit and like how much to bend my knee up and then like circle it back around. Just thought I'd throw that in there really quickly in case anybody else is going through physical therapy and they're like, what the heck is going on? It was really hard to learn how to walk again, which is not something I anticipated. But I'm doing really good and I'm really hopeful that I can get back to soccer at some point in the fall. My surgery was September 10th, so my goal is to be playing soccer in September. I haven't seen my physical therapist in a while. I was going every other week, but because I'm a non-essential physical therapy client, now that I'm like doing pretty good, I'm not supposed to go into the physical therapy office with the virus. But yeah, that was my whole ACL experience with the injury, the surgery, the healing, the physical therapy. Let me know if you've had any knee injuries and surgeries down in the comments, and if you have any questions because you looked up this video because you're about to have ACL surgery, please feel free to comment down below or find me on Instagram. I have my Instagram link down below, and ask me questions because it's hard. It's hard, but like it's totally doable. And if you tore your ACL, you're most likely an athlete of some kind and you're used to putting in work. You're gonna be able to do it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching and listening to me ramble on and on and on about my life for like the past like 7 to 10 months since the surgery and the injury and everything. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep an eye out next Sunday for another new video. Bye!